I'm falling victim to knowing that nothing would likely happen in terms of big significance of the Green Bay Packers at the trade deadline.
Well, what are you talking about? They just traded a guy that has been with the team 7 years.
Oh, come on. I know they traded Preston. His snap count was going down. It opens up opportunities for Van Ness and 𝙆𝙍𝙍𝙍 and Mosby and others, but that's not a significant move where it tells the locker room, hey, we're really bringing something in to show you guys we believe that you can go make a long, big run.
Yeah, all right. I won't argue with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess do you have any issues with the way that the Packers approach the trade deadline, or are you in lockstep with Goody?
I think this year, what do you want him to go do?
Trade for a cornerback, trade for an edge rusher. It's at some point, right? I think we overvalue some draft picks. It's obviously revisionist history.
Okay, Benny. Well, first off, I want to see more Lucas Van Ness. I want to see more 𝘍𝙍𝙍𝙍. So do I think that they should go out and pick up a good corner if they're available, but at what price? And then how is that going to filter down? How is 𝘽𝙍𝙍 going to be back after the bye and ready to play, or is he going to miss a bunch of time? I got 100 questions that I don't know the answers to, but do I think this roster as currently constituted is good enough? I do. I think they are also banking on the things that fans don't really look at, and that is the development and what they see and what they think is possible moving forward. So the idea, and this is where I think everybody goes crazy. And Benny, I remember a couple years ago, you were all on the get Chase Claypool. They need a wideout.
Wow. Oh, come on.
Well, you did.
Now we're legitimately making stuff up.
No, I did. I remember you. And it was on the Scalzo and Brush show, and you were like, "Oh, they need a wideout, Claypool."
And
then you know what? The Bears do it.
No, because this is amazing. You guys got ammo, and so now you're running with it.
Here's the deal, and I think this is the thing. A lot of people get caught up in this. That you want a name. Well, you know what Goody is not going to do? He'll go get a 25-year-old. He's not going to go get a 32-year-old dude on the wrong side of 30 that is expensive, and you got to pay to get. It's just he's not going to do that. So. If you ask, do I think that they need to do that? No, they don't. Do I love when they go get, if there's this Newsome, and there's all kinds of Jaden Reed's googly eyeing and all this other stuff. All right, he is a fourth-year player. So if you're going to get a guy, get somebody that's in that elevator era where their physical and mental, is going to be peak performance the next 4 or 5 years. Great, go do that. But if your team is banking on that, without a big injury like what Detroit had, I think you're building things the wrong way.
Tausch, don't you think that all the contenders, particularly in the NFC, but you could include the AFC too, they all take stabs and they all they look at their team, they evaluate, and they said, these are the areas that we need to improve if we're going to make a Super Bowl run this year. And when they do that, it feels like they take a collective step forward, and the Packers just stay where they are. So relatively speaking, the Packers get worse compared to the other contenders for the Super Bowl that year. Don't you think that contributes to the fact that the Packers are always the team that makes the playoff, but never is the belle of the ball?
I think you can make that argument. If you want to prove that point, just talk about Odell Beckham. That would be the one time. I know I was in the camp of let's get him in here, and he ended up going to the Rams. And I think in Goody's defense, or whoever was, I think it was Goody, he pushed to get him. And Odell Beckham Jr., and I think it was at that point, who was he with? Was it the Giants or the Browns? I think it was the Browns. They let him make the pick, and he picked the Rams over what, Green Bay put a hardcore press on. So I like the idea of being in these conversations and thinking about it. But again, I'm not interested in picking up a bunch of 30-plus-year-old dudes to make some big last push. Now, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, but no, I don't know how many times you could look at it and say, well, this guy is Nuke going to be the guy that puts the Kansas City Chiefs over the top? He's going to help them, but that's not going to be the determining factor that they're going to win a champ. They're 6-0 without it. That's, I guess the thing is, I like sprinkling and going and taking some low price, low stabs, but that's not going to be the difference. Is Marshawn Lattimore going to win the Washington Commanders a championship this year?
Nope.
I don't think so, but they do, and that's great. But I just don't think that's how you sustain great success. That's how you take big stabs, and occasionally that works. And if you want to say the Packers haven't done that enough, I think that's a fair criticism.
Yeah, I guess I could just continue to hear, like, hey, we just really could use that game wrecker. How are you going to find that game wrecker? It doesn't have to be today, but it's usually not through free agency, and they usually don't end up in a spot where they're hitting on a draft pick or have a low enough.
Whoa.
I'm talking up front. I'm talking up front because you need a really good front four to rush the passer to be successful long-term in the playoffs.
Whose front four is better right now, Detroit's or Green Bay's?
The
Packers front four is struggling, Tausch. Come on now.
They have to literally.
No, I'm asking whose front four is better right now, Detroit or Green Bay's?
I mean, you can make an argument just because they brought 𝘉𝙍 Smith that it's just a slight edge. But yeah, I mean, look, Hafley's done a good job of either bringing four with different looks or bringing five. Like again, but I've had this conversation with you and Balaga and many others. At some point, you need to get home with four. And this team won't be able to be successful long-term if they can't. Now, if this is a thing where they're not looking at a Super Bowl and they want to see Van Ness and Mosby.
Yeah, so Brad, you just said that, and I'm not going to argue that the front four, when it's just been those four rushing, it's been great. No, I'm not going to argue that fight, but who is out there? I don't want to bring 𝘉𝙍 Smith in. I think Detroit didn't want to do that. They were forced to. Mm-hmm. 𝘉𝙍 Smith's been here, and his last season here wasn't great. He's got a couple of sacks with Cleveland, but that's great. I want to see, and I want to see if a Lucas Van Ness is going to. I think 𝘍𝙍𝙍 has been really good. He's making plays. You have to give guys opportunities. You can't just say, well, because these guys, they haven't been able to give themselves a chance to prove that they're a name. If you go out and get some old dude and bring him in, 𝘍𝙍𝙍 can't become who he hopes to be, or that's always the battle line that you have. And if you don't believe in your guys, then you don't have them on the team.
Well,
you guys get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
No, totally.
And Tausch, I don't want to take Kyle's question or whatever, but do you think?
But I will.
Do you think 𝘍𝙍 even made the calls? Like that's what I just wonder. Like, because you're right. Who's out there? Well, I don't know. Like, I don't know what a realistic trade would look like. But do you think 𝘍𝙍 is even, doing like real hardcore due diligence to try to do that? Or you think he's the kind of guy that says, look, I know our roster. I'm not even interested in entertaining trades.
I think he likes, and you can say he's wrong, I think he likes his young talent up front. I do think he's dabbling around trying to find a DB because I don't know how much he trusts Jair being available, and I think he is not a fan of where Stokes is at in his development. So I do think he is snooped around and is trying to find another guy that can fit back there. And I think if you had to give him some truth serum, I think looking back, I think last year when they got rid of Rasul Douglas, they didn't think they were going to do a lot. And when that came, they would love to have him on this roster right now. If they could trade a fourth-round pick to get him back from Buffalo, I think they'd take that in a heartbeat.
Talking with Packers Hall of Famer Mark Tauscher here on Kyle Preston Nortman across ESPN Wisconsin.
I mean, Tauscher, obviously you're not really interested in the Green Bay Packers trading or making a move for anybody, but what do you think the Packers need to do in order to solidify their championship?
He didn't say that.
I mean, you basically said that you believe that the team has enough in order to win a championship. Now they don't need.
I do, but I also on our show this morning, I'm all in on trying to get this. If 𝘍𝙍 and they believe that Newsome can come in and be better than Stokes, I want him.
Okay. So I should say you're content. We're both in the same. We're in the same area. We're both content with them not making moves. We want them to make moves, but we're content with that. But I want to know what you think the Packers, because assuming they won't make a move here in the next 13 minutes, what do the Packers need to do in order to solidify their championship aspirations? Then.
Well, I think those guys that we just discussed. I think we need to see more from Van Ness. I think we need to see a big lift from Rashawn Gary, and I think Devontae Wyatt needs to get healthy and back rushing. We need to see more from that group. But outside of that, obviously, Jordan Love's decision-making has to be better. I don't think there's like some magic pill. Well, we need this. We need this. I think the talent is there. Now, is it there to win a Super Bowl this year? I don't know. It's been way too sloppy, and it's been a young team that has not grown up quick enough. So can that happen? We saw great strides last year from about this time until the middle of January. can we see that again? I would expect that we will. And you have a schedule that allows you to, I think, have some wins and get some confidence going. But there's not going to be like the guys have to be more consistent, and you have to clean up what the sloppy penalties and the mistakes that we're making are what are getting us beat against good teams.
Yep.
We're beating average teams even with the mistakes that we're making. That's a good sign. But if you want to be great, you have to wipe this stuff out. And the only way to do that is go out and play. I don't think it's to bring in 10 veterans and say, well, we need this. Now, if you want to bring in one and say maybe that can help that growth process quicken, all right, I'm game for that, but it better be at a very cheap price.